You ready to get into this week of
Let's
releases?
do it. Let's do it. It is a big week at Seelbach once again. So excited to kick things off Monday. Most of you probably know if you're on our email list. I'm assuming you've seen some ads on your Facebook or Instagram for the Seelbach Advent Calendar, and we're really excited. These started to ship. They are available. We're about to hit our cutoff to receive them by the first day of the Advent calendar, which is December 1st. So, if you haven't seen it already, this is the Sealbox Advent Calendar that is upside down. There it is. And just, a lot of work went into this, but even more importantly, there's a ton of great whiskey in there. One of them, we've talked about it before, like one of the biggest requests we get is for people to be able to try things before they buy them. And this is just a great way to, try a bunch of different things. There's 21 different suppliers, 24 samples, some bourbon, a little bit of rye. It's all whiskey, some finished, some not finished. So excited to push that one more time on Monday, so people realize that one, if you want it before December 1st, you need to go ahead and order, and two, the presale pricing is ending, so it will jump up just slightly. We still want to make it a great Christmas gift, but that's coming on Monday, so should be a great way to kick off the week.
Absolutely. And if you're anything like me or like my wife, or if I should say if your husband or someone you know who you're trying to get a bourbon gift for, or anything like kind of me or my wife. Last year she was like, can you give me a tea advent calendar? I don't care that I want it for Christmas because I just want the teas. Same thing with the whiskey. Like it's great that we could do it for an advent, but like you said, people are looking for small samples like this to try a plethora of these distilleries without having to invest in all the different bottles. So it's going to make a great gift anyway. And while you all are here, I want to give a huge shout out to Emily for all the work to put this together for us because it's been really, really well received so far. I'm excited for people to do that. So why don't you all jump in the comments below and say thanks, Emily, for putting this together. And while you're there, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't so you can continue to keep up with our new weekly releases.
That is 100% on point. I feel like we should just calculate the amount of hours that she has put into getting this release calendar together. Because as you can imagine, organizing and coordinating with 21 different people to get transfers and bonds and bottlings done correctly and stuff up, not a small task. So
Love
shout
it.
out Emily. Um, Next up, another fun one we don't have a lot on Seal Box. We did one of these barrels last year, sold out very quickly. As our main focus is craft whiskey, we still do like to highlight some of these bigger producers. We have our next Angel's Envy barrel. Really excited for that one. Always sells well. Angel's Envy, I feel like, is just one of those bourbons that they started off small. They did sell to Bacardi. They were doing finishes when finishes weren't really a thing, and it's still one that it's everywhere. People love Angel's Envy. The single barrels are always super tasty. We picked this one back probably 4 or 5 months ago at this point. Excited to have that one in. I believe your bottle's on the way.
Mhm.
But should be another great one. It is the kind of the traditional port finish bourbon, um, and yeah, that I think that'll be a good one, um, as we go into the holiday season, whether you're looking for a gift or just something it's just like a delicious pour. I wouldn't say it's like
Mhm.
the most complex and high proof and like it's just a delicious bottle. Like if you want something that's a little more rounded, a little sweeter, that's where I'd send people every single time.
And like you said last time, I mean, the last pick sold out. I think this one will as well. They're just they're just good, Finished bourbon before it was cool. That's that's cool, man. That's cool.
And if you're still wondering, you've been listening for, 7 minutes now, why Brian was strumming a guitar on the intro. That's for this next release. So we have a new brand, with a new limited edition release, I guess we'll call it. So it's the Boogie Chillin' Bourbon, in honor of John Lee Hooker. His grandson recreated this brand around his grandfather, who's a very famous guitar player. I mean, maybe even more famous than we realized, before recording this because we started tracking his Spotify streams, and he's still getting, millions of listeners every month, even
Yeah.
24 years after his death, which is pretty amazing. But legendary guitar player. His grandson has created this brand to honor him, and this is a release specifically around the guitars he used. So it's like the Gibson edition. So there's 5 different bottles. Even more important with something like this, I know you got to try the bottles, and you're like, wow, this is really impressive whiskey as well to go along with a cool bottle, a cool story, and all of that.
Yeah, I think that apologize to the guitar purists out there who noticed I was playing a Gretsch on the intro, for for
First
gigs
thing I
I know.
noticed,
So I'm
somebody's
so
never
sorry.
played an instrument. That's the first thing I noticed.
I left my Les Paul at home. I do have one. The Gretsch stays in the office. So again, I apologize um to all parties. But yeah, this is gonna be fun. I mean, I'm really curious just to see what the reception is. Apparently they partnered with Gibson for the release. So there's gonna be an early release for these. Now these are we have 4 single barrels available on their own, and then as a pack, they're going to be made available to like their list. And I think Gibson's doing a share about it first. So because they are single barrels, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the reception is going to be like. There might be a lot of big blues fans out there, and they might start eating them before we get to the release of them. But look for them this week. They're again 8-year cash strength Bardstown barrels, and they're really big and really flavorful. I mean, the folks who liked, we talked recently about like Silk Velvet, who like these kind of big, sweeter profiles. I mean, we've seen these, things that are in a similar pocket, and they resonate really, really well with people. And so there's 4 different single barrels with a little bit different personality. And I'm not going to get into all of them because I'm not the huge guitar nerd, but you'll be able to read all about that this coming week.
Should be a good one. Yeah, I'm excited for that, and it is fun. We've seen this happen a few times where, whether it's celebrity or just almost like adjacent categories, it's like it's focused on guitar players, but at the same time, they took the time and effort to make sure it was very good whiskey in the bottle, and it just reaches more people to craft distillation and craft whiskey, and so I always like releases like this. They're fun to me.
And again, make another mention back to the Christmas gifting thing. If you know someone who has a Epiphone Zephyr or a Gibson ES335 or a Gold Top Les Paul or a SJ200, you will want to pay particularly close attention to the 4 of these.
I don't know what any of those things mean. I assume they are all guitars, and it's just
You need to get you learning how to play D&D with Matt Lillard. You're like,
yeah, exactly. Nah, me and Kristen, we can talk about the tea advent calendars all day long. You get into some of that, and I am lost.
but
I
I
can
get
only
you.
have so
But
many
here's
hobbies
here though.
because I take them a little too serious.
It's a bit of a detour from what we're talking about. But if you want to see Matt Lillard teach Blake how to play Dungeons and Dragons, or if you want to see him in a Freddy Fazbear costume, leave it down in the comments below.
I think 5 whiskeys of Freddie would be an incredible tasting to do. Maybe we make that happen. FFS does have their Monk releasing this week, which is pretty much their first cask strength release. I know we're talking a week ahead and this has already happened, but should be some bottles available. So if you are interested in the Dungeons and Dragons or gaming theme of things, yeah, quick shout out to Monk as well as they release that in their series with Quest Inn whiskey. And so next up, I mean, we joked around about this a little bit with what we're going to make the subject line of the email, but we kinda said, "Can we call this in before Bruisel?" And, Bruisel is obviously he's a machine, man, cranks out some of the best YouTube content out there, and one of his most recent videos was him going around at his whiskey fest, and he said Broad Branch, which, distillery we've worked with for a little while now, some fantastic rise, but he said Broad Branch was his favorite distillery at the whiskey fest, so that was very fun to see them get a shout out. That did push through any bottles we had left, but we do have a restock coming as well as a couple new releases.
Yep.
I will say these are very low in quantity. There's not much of them, but when it's 11-year cash strength rye, and I believe there's a 9-year, or excuse me,
Mhm.
hazmat cask strength rye, and
Oh,
then so they've got a few different options. I believe we'll have 5 different bottles available from them. 2 are super limited. The other 2 are fairly limited. I think they'll go fast, but, I think it's amazing to see people like Bruzel taking the time and using their platform, to highlight these smaller distillers that are doing great things. That's been our MO for a long time, and so somebody with a even much bigger platform, I think he's up to, like, 800,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's cool to see him give them some love on some of his videos. So, really great
awesome.
whiskey out of North Carolina. So Broad Branch is that day. It'll probably be a side by side um pairing email, I guess you'd say. We have 2 bottles from Calico House. Yeah, so Calico House is coming, and they're of the same vein of like a Lost Lantern or a Forward Slash, where they're sourcing whiskey primarily, single barrels. We have 2 coming from Black Frost Distillery and then 1 from Dancing Goat. Black Frost Distillery was one, it was new to me whenever, I got these bottles from Calico House, and it really cool story. We did bourbon, but their focus is really on estate grown grains. They are up north in, Minnesota, so that's where a lot of rye comes from in general, but a lot of grain grown up there as well that's used in by a bunch of different distilleries. They do open top fermentation, so you get a little more of these funkier, fruitier notes, and one we've never had on the site before, so it was really cool to get exposed to them through this bottling. And then Dancing Goat, most people are very familiar with what they do. They just crank out incredible whiskey. It is MGP. It's finished in French oak, I believe. 2 really good releases to kind of go hand in hand with the broad branches of just a highlight of craft distillation and craft
Mhm.
blending all at the same time. So that should be a great one.
Absolutely. I was able to try those calicos last time I was in
Mhm.
Jacksonville, didn't I?
Yeah, we tried those, actually both releases. I was thinking we just had the Black Frost, but you did try both of those. So, I know we are sold out on some of the Dancing Goat stuff right now. So if you miss those, another way to get a great bottle from Dancing Goat and to just highlight more of this independent bottling, kind of this, what do we call it, like merchant bottling, where they're going distillery to pick different barrels and highlight that. So yeah, that's a fun one.
Looking forward to
And then
that.
we end the week on a big one. It actually brand we haven't had on Sealbox as this brand, which is Charbay, one of the first distilleries to ever do craft distillation in the country. We're talking back to really the 70s. I went back and looked at my notes, and I included them in one of the first blog posts I ever did on Sealbox back in 2017, or excuse me, 2018, and just talked about how they were one of the first. It was them, St. George, a lot of these California, Pacific Northwest distilleries popped up kind of around the same time. And they were one of the first, started in the wine world, started making whiskey in a more brandy-esque way, I guess I'd say, with their pot distillation. Um, but we've had some of their whiskey on Sealbox through some very popular releases, whether it's River Roots or Wolves whiskey, that they do a lot with. They distilled beer essentially. They have the R5 Racer IPA. And so this is actually one of their more stouted beers, I guess I'd say, but it's super big, super high proof. I believe the bottle came in at like 157 proof. So 157 proof, almost 8-year American whiskey. It's a 2-barrel blend. We tried through these samples a long time ago, and I think you were even like, okay, I know we're picking a single barrel, but these 2 together, this one brings a lot of that caramel, butterscotchy, fruity power, and this one has, like, some good structure and characters to it.
Right.
Could we blend these together? And at the time, we couldn't, and then they came back and were like, "Actually, this would probably do well with the two-barrel blend." So, we ended up getting the two-barrel blend. It's one, if you've seen how the River Roots have done in the past, probably won't last long. The Charbet does have a huge cult-like following. It's a private label for Seelbach. So Seelbach's logo is embedded on the label with the Charbet logo. But just another really cool one that we haven't had before, and we probably should have visited before now, but excited to get this going.
I feel like this is my birthday and you're surprising me with a present because I remember tasting those samples and I didn't know what happened from that. So hearing that
Yeah.
we now have the 2 barrel blend and coming, and yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be excited about it. And I remember tasting through these. We had several samples, and I think I remember being like, "Can we just should we buy them all? I don't know what do you want me to say about these samples."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think these two are going to be really fun together. I've not tried the final product yet, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, and actually, I did pull the samples, um, and yeah, I believe it was a blend of 2 of these where, these are both 2017. One is the Hop Rod Rye, and then the other one is the SMW. The proof samples were around 151 and 150. That actually increased by the time we got to bottling. Um, it's just it's very interesting and delicious whiskey. Like it's not. I've had some hopped whiskeys in the past that I'm like, just too much of that comes through, and these I feel like balances that beer mash that they use to distill from, and just gives a really well-rounded, complex whiskey. Like I feel like these would even bring in a lot of Scotch drinkers as well,
Mhm.
just because of the nuance. Even though it's probably double the proof most Scotch drinkers are used to drinking things at. Um, but a great way to close out the week, and, we'll
Sure.
hopefully have enough bottles to make it through this one. I'm a little unsure of where that will land. Like, I could also see it selling very quickly to the pro members on Thursday, but yeah, should be another good one.
Yeah, a wild week of some very interesting things.
We're all over the place this week.
Mhm.
I kinda joked last week, I was like, "Well, I don't really have a theme for this one," and then we start talking, we're like, "Oh, this is one of my favorites, this is one of my favorites," like, "Oh, it's the favorites week." This one is just a wild week. I think that is the, through line there is something for everyone. It's a wild week. It's more of an experimental week almost just because
Yeah,
it's stuff we don't typically have. It's not like, "Oh, you'll remember 2 months ago that we had this." It's new stuff, different stuff, and just all in all, a little more funky than we typically have.
for sure.
Well, cool. Thanks for everyone for watching this. Definitely smash the like button. I don't know, Brian did the better intro on that earlier, but join the email list, join the text list. We are putting things out through both channels as of now. So if you did see something come in and go out of stock, that could just be because it went to a text message, or could have just been in case you missed it. We're always trying to find the best way to get the products out there without having to send an email blast on everything. And definitely, if you see something you like, sign up to be notified when it's in stock. That is also how we release things at times that just have very few bottle counts. So enjoy the week, everyone. Excited to get another one going.
Cheers, everybody. Let us know what you're most looking forward to down in the comments below.